Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Dipankar, and in this video we are going to talk about how we can build our custom function using Apex so that we can use it inside the Dataraptor. OmniStudio has already provided you a list of the functions out of the box that you can use to achieve your own functionalities. But if there are any requirements in which you want to build your own logic and get some outputs that are not possible using the out of the box functions, in that case you have to use the custom functions, right? So let's take an example that is present here on the screen. This is an list of strings, right? If you want to convert this list of strings to something like list of objects, this is not possible out of the box currently, right? So if we want to achieve this functionality, we have to use an custom function, right? And how can we use this custom function? If you scroll a little bit down over here, they have given an example, right? In this example, this is something that you need to write inside your Dataraptor. Whatever this Apex class that are building, this Apex class must implements this callable interface, and it also needs to implement this call method as well, right? So let's try to do this from the scratch and understand how this happens in the real time. So I have created a Dataraptor over here. There is nothing over here, right? I just have given it some inputs, but since there is nothing, it will not execute anything, right? And again, before calling this class and method, right, we just need to create this class first, right? So I have came to this developer console. This developer console, I just have created a class. It's as good as an empty class. It has nothing written over here. It just implements this callable interface, and it just implements this call method. So let's copy this class name. Let's go to Dataraptor, and in the formula tab we need to add any formula. To use a custom function, right, we have to use the function keyword over here. The first parameter or argument it needs is the custom class. The second argument it requires is the custom function, right? I can just write anything. Let's suppose I want to write custom function. And the third parameter, right? So we have two other parameters over here. Let's say we want to pass this account ID dynamically, right? I can do this over here like this. And the second thing, let's suppose I want to pass this list of asset IDs, right? So I can explicitly even use this list function over here, and inside the list function I use the most syntax and I can pass this asset IDs. So let's suppose we haven't done anything, but let's suppose I want to get some output from this function, right? So there should be some result path, right? So let me try to rename it as my custom result. And again, if you want to show this as an output, right, we have to go to this transform and we have to add this over here, right? My custom result, and it can be my custom result or my custom result from Apex, whatever, right? I mean, it's depend on you how you want to rename it. It can be anything, right? So we have configured our Dataraptor. Let's try to go back to the documentation and see how we can use this, right? So basically we needs to implement a callable interface and this call method. Okay, in this call method it takes two things, action and args, right? These arguments, and from these arguments we will be able to get the input, options and output, right? So even without doing anything, since we are not getting any error, let's try to debug this, how we can achieve this functionality. So basically we can see the action and args over here. If we are able to successfully call our Apex class from this Dataraptor, right, without any errors, we should be able to get this action, right? Action and args. Let's try to debug them. System.debug. I'll just write action, and this action should be the action I'm getting. And let's also try to system.debug get the arcs, right? So what are these arcs? If we are able to get this action and arguments, we can use it to manipulate and build our custom logic, right? So let's try to save it. let's go back to log panel. I'll clear everything, right? And there is nothing over here. Obviously we won't get any output because we haven't implemented any logic, but we just want to know what this action and arcs are really, right? So I'll just click on execute. I'll just come over here and you can see something over here, right? So VF remoting, if I click on it and if I check this debug only checkbox, I can get this action equals to custom function, and this arcs, it gives you the input, options and output, right? So this action is the custom function, right? So what we want to understand over here is just this custom function is something that we can pass as a parameter. It's not a method name actually, right? So let's suppose we want to execute this, right? If let's suppose x option equals to custom function, then we want to execute some piece of code, right? Let me format it, right? So this is the importance of this custom function. And in this custom function, right, if you want to get this input and options and output, how can I get these values? To get these values, again, let's go over here. We can even write it, but let's use whatever provided by salesforce. So I'll just come over here and copy this thing, and it's actually better to copy it over here, right? So now we got the input, output and options, right? But the thing is that we want to get our account ID and asset IDs, right? So if you want to get our account ID, it's present inside the arguments, right? This arguments is a list, right? So how can get the account ID? So to get an account ID, I can write string, let's say write just account accid equals to, and before writing it, right, so it gives you a list of objects, right? And this objects is wrapped inside the arguments, right? So let's try to get these arguments as well. So what I can write, list of object arguments equals to, let's typecast this first as a list of object, right? So the arguments we can get it from the input, right? I can write input dot get, and what I want to get it over here is the arguments, right? So I'll just copy it from here, I'll paste it here. So from this arguments, right, so let's fix the typo. The account ID is present at the index 0, right? You can see over here account ID is present at the index 0, but this asset ID is again a list, right? So let's try to get it as well. We get the account ID over here, we can write okay, so this asset list is a map first, right? So this map contains a list of objects. So let's get this map of string comma object. I'll just write assets map equals to, and here we can get arguments of 1, right? So this is present as the index 1, right? And if we okay, so now we have traveled until this, right? And if you want to get this list, right, abc 1 2 3 4, this value, right, we have to traverse this velocity formula list, right? So to get this velocity formula list, let's try to see illegal assignment from object to string, line number 14, string account ID. Okay, so here we again have to typecast it, string and arguments, line number 50, arguments. Did I make a typo? Let's paste it over here. Yeah, there is a typo, right? And from these arguments, if I want to get the list of asset IDs, right, so I again have to get the list of asset IDs, right. I'll write as asset list equals to asset map, right. So from asset map I want to get this particular value, right, velocity formula list. I'll just paste it over here, and again we have to typecast it as well. So let me click on save, and there is no error, right. So we get the asset list and we get the account ID, right. For now let's don't do anything, just try to debug it. So action, and I just want to put the account ID, and in the second I just want to write the asset list, right. And let's remove this arcs, and again let's go back to logs panel, clear everything, and let's go to Dataraptor preview tab and click on execute. So there is this log came over here. Let me go to here and check this debug only checkbox. Alright, right. So here if you see, we are getting this account ID over here successfully, and we are getting this asset list, right. So that's it. I mean, since we are getting this input, we can process it and build our logic, right. So in our case, what we want to do over here is that we just want to convert this list of strings into a list of objects, right. So let's try to do that as well. So let's remove this system debug things. Okay. So here we have a list of strings, right, and we have to convert this list of strings into list of maps. To convert this, right, so let's do one thing. Let's try to make a list of objects. So I'll write just list of object, and this list of object is nothing but map of string comma string, right. I'll just write transform array, right, and this transformed arrays, let's try to just initialize it. In the next part we will add the elements into it. Okay, so we want to add the elements into this transformed array, right. So what we can do, let's try to iterate over this list, right. For object, let me write to key, right, and this key is present in the asset list, and for each of the asset lists let's create a new map of string and string, right. In this map we'll just write asset is the key, and in the value we just get whatever the key I am getting from this asset list, right. And this key is an object over here, so we have to typecast it into string, right. So since we are getting this map, right, we again have to add this map, right. So what I can do, I'll just cut it, and here we will write transform array dot add, and I'll paste it again, right, and I'll save it. Let's go back and see what is the problem that we are getting over here. Expecting, okay, so I think that is the mistake. It syntax is different. It is over here. Okay, we have done our processing, right. Now we have to send this as an output also, right. To send this output, what we can do over here, we can use the output map over here, output dot put. Okay, this key should be always result and the value, right. So the value is the transformed array, right. I think we again got some issue. Output dot put result, let's see what we are getting. Okay, we have to all right, So actually we have to down all these things over here, or let me try to put this output over here as well. Okay, so now it recognizes this transformed array, right? So if our logic is perfect, then we should be able to see the outputs, right? So let me come over here and let's click on execute. Now we can see we are getting my custom results from Apex. That's because it is written over here as the JSON path, and here we are getting asset, and this ABC 1234 is coming here, right? So now we are able to successfully convert into a list of objects from the list of strings, right? Okay, so we have done this functionality, right? So there is a better way to do it, right? So how we can do it? So we are basically getting all these values, right? So we are getting the input output already. So let's try to make it reusable, right? So control X, let's try to wrap it inside a function, right? So let's create a function. I'll write is convert to object, right? And in this convert to object, I'll just write convert to object, and in this convert to object I'll paste it everything over here, right? And instead of writing the output over here, right, so what we can write over here, let's try to write public static, because if we want to write call it directly, we have to write static. And let's try to return a map of string object, right? So we are returning a map of string object. So instead of output dot put, I can write return transformed array, right? And again let's try to remove it from here. Let's see what is the error we are getting over here on the line number 14. Okay, so there is this error, right? And this convert to list of 29 from list to map. Okay, list of, okay, let's try to do this. Let's try to remove return is as it is, and instead of this I can simply write list of objects, right? Okay, so now it is not able to recognize this input. That's because we need to pass these inputs, right? We just need to pass input, then output, then we also need to pass the options, and this input output and options should be defined over here, right? So input output and options, right? So let me try to save it over here. There is no issue. Okay, so we are returning it from here, right? So in place of here just writing is as it is, I can write output, right? Output dot put, and here I can write result. Let me write it result, and in the place of result I can write this one, right? So that whatever the value we are returning from this convert to object will pass this as a result, right? So this is one way how we can use it, right? So we have basically separated our logic from this interface itself, right? And let's try to comment it, and I guess in that case we should not be getting anything over here. Let me click on execute. It is now empty, and now let's try to uncomment this one, save it, right? And let's try to execute it. Alright, so now we are able to get our desired outputs, right? So this is how we can able to build our own custom function using Apex, so that we can use it inside Dataraptor, right? So let me recap everything quickly. So to build an custom function, right, you have to come to this Dataraptor. You first have to mention this class name, followed by the method name, and followed by the list of arguments that you want to get it from here. And to create an Apex class, we just have to implement this callable interface, and again we have to use this call method over here and implement it. And here we will be getting this inputs, outputs and options, and from this input we will be getting this arguments as well, and whatever the value we want to pass it from this function to the Dataraptor, we can write output.put by using this output object, output map, right? From this output.put we can write result, and its result key will pass whatever the values we want to pass it here, right? So this is all about how we can call an Apex from the Dataraptor by using a custom function, right? So please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or queries, and thank you for watching.